Hello everyone, nice to see you all again in this 6th edition of the Detroit Electronic Music Conference 2022. Broadcasting from Ibiza, this is Dr. Leuman, and I will talk about blockchain in the music industry. Last year we talked about NFTs, which is a tiny part of a blockchain universe. There is currently a huge buzz around blockchain technology. Much is speculated about its applications, and although the future of music is still not entirely clear, the potential of technology to dramatically alter the supply chain is undeniable. So, on a surface level, for any company that manages a vast supply chain or value chain, where they want to facilitate trusted transaction between actors, blockchain holds the key. And indeed, that is where many industry pilots are kicking off today. But there is another message that is important to address. Read between lines, and you will see something major stand out. This new paradigm in the music industry make no mention on the platforms, studios, and record labels that have carved out their space as middlemen in the industry. That should scare any company who sees value in their business today from being a gatekeeper. Of course, few companies are strictly gatekeepers, so this doesn't mean instant demise for every company that finds itself in this position. But with blockchain on the horizon, every company of every industry must re-evaluate their role in the value chain where the music industry is leading the pack. In music industry, we use a supply chain every day. Even though the way we consume music has changed, the work division within the industry remained roughly the same. Artists create music, fans consume it, and the intermediaries such as the record labels and distributors act as the powerful middlemen. Traditionally, the recording music industry supply chain worked vertically integrated with independent activities, transforming the music created into a physical good. This chain starts with the artists that use the support of producers and engineers to create music, following their intermediaries who retain control, add their value to the chain. The final product will finally reach consumers either as a physical good or in a promotional format such as films, commercial, live performance, or radio. In this pre-internet era, record labels added a great amount of value to the chain. They will finance and supply the artist access to equipment, operational support to produce, record package, and promote their music, and provide access to distribution and sales channels. Because of that, record labels retained about 30% of the value generated with the final sales in this supply chain, the largest amount gained by any of the actors involved. The artists' share, it is unclear even to them. Moreover, record labels were responsible for collecting and transmitting royalty revenues, a nebulous, foggy, and long process. This configuration, as it was, allowed for extreme information asymmetry among artists and intermediates and final consumers. Now, in this figure, With the introduction of the digital media market, the music industry supply chain changed, and with it, the value generated by each actor. As depicted in the left side of the figure, a new actor was introduced to the supply chain, the aggregator. Selling music no longer means selling a physical good. Artists will be able to use both the traditional and the digital supply chain. Additionally, in this new scenario, smaller artists, you will see the right side of this figure, would now be able to record their music in independent facilities or even at home, making it available online through the aggregators directly. These artists would no longer depend on being signed by a record label to get published. On the downside, the value captured with the introduction of this new actor was not evenly redistributed among the stakeholders, even with the record labels losing their monopolistic redistributional power and the transactional costs being reduced due to the shift from physical to digital goods. The value captured by the artist did not increase. As another intermediary, the aggregators only reinforced the existing information asymmetry in the industry. Interestingly, record labels still claim the largest piece at over 50% of the share, despite their changing value to the supply chain. Some reason for this phenomenon could be the existing contracts with the artists and the licensing royalty business model that involved the record label as the performance rights holder for the recording. For major artists, the revenue stream created by the aggregator's business model decreased the total and flow of payment. For small and independent ones, even though created the possibility for publishing music online, royalties are commonly unpaid. Now, let's take a look at figure number 3. Okay, blockchain comes as a potential solution to the generators of monopolistic power for intermediators, namely distribution channels, information asymmetry, and royalty payments. This peer-to-peer network promised to give the power back to artists and eliminate the need for intermediaries, creating a direct bridge between the artists and consumers. As shown in this figure, the main expectation is that music creators publish their songs directly in blockchain networks, federated ones if it's possible, without needing intermediaries. After that, platforms powered by these networks will reach consumers, reducing transactional costs, allowing artists to access data generated by the transactions and creating a more efficient system for royalty payments. Even though this would be the ideal scenario, note that nowadays most mainstream artists are under contract with one of the majors, which prevents them to go straight from creation to the blockchain networks. Legal contractual issues will cause a blockage in the envisioned supply chain. One alternative would be not to eliminate the intermediates, but to change their roles within the chain. Thus, instead of acting as a revenue collector and representative of the musician's intellectual property, record labels would act as a collectors of usage information, as well as continue to provide technical, production, and marketing assistance according to the scope of each individual agreement. The responsibility regarding royalty payments, including the intermediate share, and the assurance of information transparency would still be granted by blockchain networks. Predictions of an immediate blockchain adoption by the industry are very optimistic. Some predict that mainstream adoption will take at least 8 years. Maybe in 2 years, a parallel alternative industry of artists and independent labels using blockchain technology will begin to affect the majors. We need to research on how blockchain can coexist with current contractual and copyright systems. The impact of the blockchain technology on the entertainment and creative industries is just beginning. In the coming years, new cases will continue to appear. It will take some key cases to prove the industry that the technology is feasible. This paradigm shift will differentiate organizations in the market that are the first to innovate and create new and effective solutions. Media companies that use blockchain to generate efficiency can improve the attribution of rights, offering an innovative way to differentiate, attracting participants to the ecosystem. There are, of course, challenges for widespread adoption. It might depend on blockchain technology to become invisible, affecting the back end of the music transaction and not the user experience. Adoption by large corporations will depend on a clear value proposition as a means of dealing with the volume of on-demand transmission data, for example, or a way to monetize derivative works and user-generated content. To reach critical mass, it might also require not only support from distributors, but also the involvement of top-level artists. No central database exists to keep track of information about music. This affects the entire music supply chain, and most critically, digital service providers who are trying to pay artists and rights owners. Today, in many cases, they simply don't know who to pay, to the great detriment of artists, music services, and consumers alike. Spotify has acquired the blockchain startup Media Chain, whose team works on the development of technologies to connect artists and other rights holders with tracks hosted on the Spotify service. Media Chain develops technology that can assist, including a decentralized peer-to-peer database to connect applications with media and information about it, as well as an attribution engine for creators and a cryptocurrency that rewards creators for their works. The startup uses blockchain to solve attribution problems. Understanding technology is essential for developing strategic planning that can help media companies stand out from the competition and potentially create a new level of collaboration and trust for the music industry in the future. What is clear is that the potential of blockchain has just begun to be explored. Blockchain has continuously been appointed as the biggest foundational technology since the internet, creating great expectations regarding its applications on a variety of industries. Yet, the technology is still in its initial stages, and it might be years before it changes our societies economic systems. Some experimental models in financial and non-financial industries are already in place, increasing even further the hype around the technology. For the music industry specifically, the addition of blockchain-powered models may result in a complete change of the industry's structure. Some of the main issues identified by the analysis of its supply chain models were the lack of transparency through the chain, musicians' low bargaining power, and efficiency of the royalty payment systems. Through the use of applications such as record keeping, smart contracts, metadata analysis, these issues may be eliminated and intermediation turned obsolete. It is important to note, however, that even with all the potential benefits to the music industry, the new business models introduced with the technology are also in their initial stages. Remember the NFTs and the bubble they just created? The mere fact that they function through the use of cryptocurrencies, not money, may still be too controversial for some consumers. Due to novelty of blockchain and the platforms powered by the network, the ability to project the success of this model is quite limited. Another point worth mentioning is the fact that without a revenue stream, it is unclear how this music platform will continue to develop and reach consumers with the same power as their competitors, Spotify or Apple Music. Platforms like Musiccoin or Resonate have mainly independent artists and labels in their catalogs, making it unlikely a scenario in which those artists would have the means to finance the projects. At the same time, by charging for the use of the platforms, there will be no disintermediation, only an exchange of it. With time, it is possible that the value captured by the artist would go back to decrease and intermediation power to increase. Furthermore, the involvement of mainstream and independent artists in this process may be a great contribution for the dissemination of blockchain in the music industry. Comparing the results of those blockchain-powered platforms with the initial results of their competitors using the subscription model could indicate how far they are from mainstream consumption. Similarly, not a lot of research was applied to blockchain in the music industry. Not only literature is limited, but also the perception of the effectiveness of the technology to this industry in particular. We need to evaluate the phase of development of blockchain in the music industry by analyzing it from a performance and adoption by artists and consumers perspective. Thanks again. This is Dr. Leuman from Ibiza Fresh Flavors. Enjoy the journey in this 6th edition of the Detroit Electronic Music Conference. Cheers.